Hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Master the Mobile Market in 2017. I'm here with Eric DeForn, and I'm Michael Knight. I'm a account manager here at Hannafin Marketing. But Eric, go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll get this thing on the road.
Great, thank you, Michael. As Michael said, my name's Eric Dafforn. I'm one of the co-founders of Lead to Conversion, and we have a long, very fruitful partnership with Hannafin. We're thrilled to be co-hosting and co-panelists today. We've been doing webinars with them for several years now, so thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, looking forward to doing this webinar with you. I think we got a lot of great content. Just so you know, join in the conversation today using the hashtag ThinkPPC on Twitter. You can ask questions, follow along with the live tweets, or use the chat box within the webinar itself to ask us any questions, and we will try and set some time aside at the end to answer any of those questions that come through. Just so you know a little bit about who Hannafin is, we are Hannafin Marketing. We run the world's most popular PPC blog, PPC Hero. We also have our Hero Conference that is actually coming up in April and will be in Los Angeles. So if you haven't signed up or are still interested, there is time to register for that. You can go to heroconference.com and get registered and meet us in Los Angeles. We have, just so you can kind of see some of who our Hannafin clients are, we work with big brands and Fortune 500 companies in a variety of verticals. And so you can also check out our client roster and some of our top clients and our reviews and so forth on our hannafinmarketing.com webpage.
Right on. And Lead to Conversion is basically what I'd call a hardcore organic SEO shop. We also do website design, social media, but for the longest time, SEO has been our bread and butter, and that's really what makes Hannafin such a great partner for us. Is that of the two big search disciplines, we each cover one of them thoroughly. And Michael, I was looking back, and this is my 11th webinar with Hannafin, so I'm thrilled to be part of this today. And I also wanted to tell our audience, Michael and I are covering a ton of stuff today. And each of these topics probably could be responsible for its own 1 to 2 hour webinar. So if you signed up to attend this, you're going to get a link to the video of this. So we're going to cover a lot, and there's probably a lot you're going to wish we'd cover deeper. Maybe those will be subsequent webinars. I don't know, but forgive us in advance for maybe covering a lot of things superficially. We got a lot of 2017 left, so we're trying to cover exactly what you're going to need to be aware of. So lots to talk about today.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Definitely a lot of good information, and congratulations on your 11th webinar. That's really awesome. I'm really glad to have Eric with me, as this is my first Hannafin webinar, so we're going to balance each other out really nice today and get through a lot of our really good content we got for you. We're going to start off with a live poll question. How long have you been in PPC? And we've got a lot of different options here: less than 1 year, 1 to 3, 3 to 5. How long, Eric, have you been in SEO and with lead to conversion? We'll start with you.
I started in the industry in '99, and I really hit SEO hard in right around 2001. So I guess I'm kind of close to finishing my second decade in this, and that's suddenly I've become sort of an old timer, and I try to balance the long view with what those young upstarts are out there doing. So, but one of the things we've always noticed in these Hannafin webinars, because this is a question we ask a lot, and there's always a really nice variety of people who are relatively new to it and people who have been around for quite a while. So what about you, Michael?
Yeah, so I've been in PPC for over 7 years. So I started back in 2010. So just as things were actually going to that next level with where PPC was headed in Google and Bing ads and so forth. So yeah, I've really been able to see a lot of change over those last 7 years with where we're headed and where we've been, and a lot more change to come. I'm looking forward to where we're going in our industry and just digital marketing in general.
Looks like a nice spread on this
And
too.
yeah, we got a great spread today. This is awesome. So Yeah, like Eric said, we're going to cover a lot of different topics, and so I think this will be really useful for everyone, no matter how long you've been in the industry.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for answering that poll question. That helps us to tailor, the information that we're going to be presenting throughout this, as well as it on the next several webinars. So we appreciate that insight from you. But let's talk about this. So on the SEO side, our world was kind of shaken up, and Google likes to keep us honest and shake us up every 18 to 24 months with some big news item. But basically, they came out last fall, right around October, November, and said, okay, you can't say you didn't see this coming. It's really officially, the era of mobile now. And I think every year since about 2011, we've said, okay, this is the year of mobile. And it's always sort of this inside joke because we keep saying it year after year that this is the year of mobile. But really in 2016, we saw that tipping point where Google said, okay, more than half of our queries are now mobile. And so we really need to address that. And in the past, the mobile segment was an audience that Google wanted to appeal to. I mean, even up until a couple of years ago, they were really interested in you making sure that you had content for not just smartphones, but feature phones they would call, where you're actually clicking a number one to find additional information. They've always been about allowing access to the lowest common technological denominator. So really what this is Google saying, look, okay, we can't avoid this any longer. From now on, the way you rank is going to be based not on your desktop site, which has been basically the way it's been since Google has been, but we're now going to base all of your rankings, both desktop and mobile, on how well your mobile site is optimized. And so that's a real shakeup because historically on the web dev side, you always focused on your desktop site. You wanted to have a nice mobile experience, but it wasn't, job one, so to speak. Even 5 years ago, Google came out and said, well, you know what, we kind of prefer responsive sites. And that was great, but at the time, most everyone still had like m.domain.com or domain.com/mobile, had all their mobile stuff in a separate area. Responsive has taken over to a great extent, but now you really need to focus on mobile as in, hey, this is how the default is for our site, and the desktop is important too, but really let's make our decisions based on the fact that our world is now people coming to our site from a mobile device. Now, we don't know when Google says, okay, we're going to base your rankings based on this. You never know what Google's going to do. It's not, it's not like the 2002 version of a penalty where you get knocked out of the index for a while, but you're not going to do as well. You're going to come in lower than a site that has a better mobile UX with all other things being equal because they are so focused now on treating the mobile visitor right. So that's really what what my portion, the SEO portion of this webinar is about today. It's all about, how do we make the decisions? What sort of tactics can we use to satisfy what Google is now saying is their current paradigm? Michael has some spend numbers that he's going to go through that really sort of correlate to that. So yeah, Michael, tell us what's going up on the ad spend front.
Yeah, and I think even going back to what you were mentioning about the Google change of indexing and really looking at mobile sites, they've slowly hinted at that for the last couple of years in the sense of really pushing their site speed analysis, their Google site analysis, where you can get a score to see how your mobile is doing. And I know a lot of our reps have really kind of been pushing it without really telling us exactly what's going to be coming down the pipeline, but we've been slowly being pushed towards that direction. But it is pretty crazy to see that has kind of transpired so quickly and abruptly that they just said, okay, now mobile is the way to do everything, and desktop is now secondary. So to flip it on its head is definitely a change. But we're seeing that even within the spending, ad spending share across where money is being spent from the last few years. So, mobile on the chart on the left, we had in 2015 a 66% increase overall in mobile ad spend increase. and every year it's just progressively getting larger. So in 2016, we had a 64% overall increase. A lot of that being really shared across all formats, display, search, other. And this year we're projecting another 43% increase in mobile ad spending. And it's going to start tapering down. And that's not because people are going to be less interested in mobile. It's just because we're having such a huge spike in mobile spend now that you can only go so far in how much money you can spend and how much money you can continue to push out into mobile versus what you're doing on desktop. But the numbers continue to exponentially increase from the 48, and this is in billions, so $48 billion on mobile ad spend in 2017 to the projected almost $100 billion in 2020. And to just outline that even a little bit further, just looking at the digital ad spend by device, we can see that switch happen in 2017 where desktop actually had the largest share of budget in 2015, where it was 60-30 split to almost 50-50 split in 2016. And all of a sudden now we make the 60-40 split switch where we're going to start seeing that gap become bigger and bigger as we move into even 2020, where it's projected to be an 84-16% going from a 35% mobile in 2015 to 84% spend in 2021, and desktop going from 65% of that spend to 16%. I mean, that's a huge, huge change that we're really seeing that just drastic flip and of that budget. And I think that goes back to what you were talking about with Google just saying, okay, we got to make a change, and we're seeing those projections coming, and there's really no better time than right now. So this is really just it's going to inform the rest of what we have to say around campaign options, things that we can look at doing in 2017 that are going to help take your mobile efforts to the next level. And so that takes you back to you, Eric, with just analytics and the changes that are continuing to happen.
Right, and this is a very simple, just a pull from Google Analytics, and it's showing you what we're starting to see across the board, where not just mobile and tablet. I mean, tablet's sort of that almost forgotten little segment of device, but mobile itself is now, in a lot of cases, over half of the web traffic, and that's so important. And you need, again, you got to treat these people not like they're the outliers now, but they're the mainstream, and that comes down to everything you think about, including you're doing a presentation where you're talking about new web initiatives, and the default is to show the desktop screen. Well, stop doing that. I don't know if it was LinkedIn or somewhere where I saw about a presentation someone had made, and it was all in portrait mode. It was all with the black bars on the side. And people are like, what are you doing? And they said, listen, you've got to think this way now. You can't go left to right anymore. You got to think up and down because everyone else is out there thinking up and down. And there's sometimes a disparity between what Google says the mobile queries are, maybe they're 55 or 60% mobile, and what your mobile traffic is, because a lot of sites haven't yet reached that 50% threshold. And I'm going to talk in a little while about how Google sometimes, you can have a lot of mobile queries without necessarily having a click-through. In other words, a lot of times the search result is enough for the user to get the information they're looking for without clicking through to a site. Now, that's a thorn in a lot of people's sides, but it's the reality of it. So I'll talk about that. So even if your mobile traffic's only 35, only 40, only 45%, we've seen where this is going, and it's going to where you need to pay attention to that. So segment your users more regularly. Look at the mobile bounce rate. Look at the mobile conversion rate, and don't think, oh, that's interesting. We gotta do a little more for them. Maybe no. You got to think. Let's build our entire experience around what this is going to be, because in a year, 2 years, they're going to be your dominant audience. Michael, tell me about mobile conversions and the reporting now for the ad scene, because that's something the cross-device measurement is really still a big enigma to a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and it's only growing in its ability to track cross-device. So Google has been implementing starting last year cross-device conversions with the All Conversions tab within AdWords, where you could segment and look at conversions that were coming across device. And now there's actually device path reports within AdWords that we can actually now look at to see and make decisions based off of where those clicks and those actual conversions are coming from. Is it a mobile influence conversion? Is it an actual mobile conversion that's happening in the last click? What and so we can look at that device path report and create device bidding decisions to start either bidding. Maybe we just need to start bidding down on our desktop bids. That's I don't think that's really something that we talk about a lot. Is we really look at desktop bids as always being our standard. So we set our desktop bids and we have a bid modifier of 0%. And then we start actually raising and lowering. Now that we can resegment tablet and mobile, we start actually changing our mobile and tablet bids to counteract based off of desktop. But we actually probably start needing, based on these reports, need to start flipping that on its head, and maybe desktop needs to be our 0% modifier, and everything else needs to start being based off of those mobile bids. And so there's a couple of those reports, like I mentioned, the device pass report that's available, and then there's also a mobile assist ratio where you can see how often mobile is actually making an impact on performance. Um, and mobile influence conversions and what that looks like is there's a lot of different ways that can happen. It can be happening through calls, it can be happening through foot traffic, which is a little harder to track, but we can look at that through location extensions. And by having those and our people clicking through, and getting and using that location, can we use, if there's limited conversions, can we use smart goals through analytics to try and decipher the engagement of those users on mobile, using the assisted conversions and mobile together? Are they directly being attributed to mobile as a conversion? And the other thing that's even coming down the pipeline, and it's currently slowly being rolled out, and Facebook's put out some information on it, is the Facebook Atlas. It's kind of been in development for a long time, but it's taking that cross-device conversion to that next level, and allowing really deep insight into how somebody is taking their mobile device, they're going to their desktop, they're going back to their mobile, how they're actually making a purchase, where they're making a purchase, what they're using to purchase. So I think as we move through 2017, we're going to see more and more reporting options and tools that we can use to figure out and start talking either to our clients or our own internal teams about why and how mobile and desktop are affecting each other, because now it's no longer about how is desktop affecting mobile or mobile affecting desktop, but it's a combination of how are they working together to create a larger process of getting somebody to a conversion. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about some micro moments and some opportunities within the mobile space for us to continue to push mobile. But I think the question for the audience really comes down to figuring out what the right conversion points is for your business and for each device. And then based on that business model, what's going to tell the story? How are you going to be able to show an impact and an engagement level with somebody on mobile, and how that's contributing to the success? And how is your mobile site, even within analytics and within how your site is responsive and set up, getting that user to that final conversion point that you're looking for? So I think that leads us right into some of the challenges of that lovely new mobile organic content and where everything is on the page.
Right. One of the funny things here is last year we did a webinar about the desktop experience and what the challenges were there, and the way it shook out last year. And I talked about how Google kind of shakes us up every year or so. You know, they made a change to AdWords, and they added on the desktop, they added that fourth premium ad above the organic listings. And so last year we addressed, okay, even if you're ranking number one, you can get the shaft sometimes, because look how far down the first organic content is now that we've added that fourth paid ad at the top. And at the time we didn't really talk about mobile because mobile wasn't affected by that. So we've swung back now, and uh, look at this. I mean, in the SEO space, you're nothing if people can't find you. And so one of the challenges we have now is look at all this content. This is represents four different screens here, or a long, really long vertical scroll, just for the query Honda Civic. And so you have to get to the fourth screen, even at number one rank, okay, before any organic content at all is visible. And that's a huge challenge. I mean, you can't rank better than number one, okay? It's not like you can rank -5 and suddenly you're back up above the paid stuff. No, this is the best you can do on the organic side, and it's still four scrolls down. Now, a scroll on a phone, a smartphone, is not as bad as a scroll on desktop in terms of user annoyance. It's not as bad as being on page 2 or 3 or 4 of Google search results, because those are sort of getting there now. It's kind of like a graveyard. There's just nothing going on out there beyond page 1. So it's not as bad as that, but still, what are some ways to overcome this? And later on, I'm going to. The purpose of this slide is to just lay out the problem. There's a lot going on between the query box on the far left here and the first organic result, which is on the right. I'm going to talk later on about how to work your way into that area between those 2 points. But for now, this is challenge number 1. Let alone what if you rank 2 or 3 or 4? That puts you on the 5th screen. So this is the challenge that we need to overcome. Michael's going to talk a little bit about extensions and how the paid side can work its way into this, and then after that I'm going to talk about how you can work your way organically into this area.
Yeah, and I think this really goes to, as you were talking in the very beginning of the presentation about just our partnership, worked with Hannafin a lot because of their SEO ties are very strong, PPC ties, and how we can work together. And I think that really just goes to what this is. I'm not even switching slides because I think this even tells a story into the next slide of there's so much going on, but there's so much that we can do, and when we tie things together, like you're saying, and getting things into that third screen. But as that happens, there are things that we can do within that top results that we can help the user find the information that we need. So we can really play off of the SEO, and utilize great mobile ad extensions, for ads to help our users come to a conversion or become an engaged user. So there's 4 main ones on the mobile side that are very useful. We can do location extensions, so that's kind of for that foot traffic that we were talking about earlier, and that conversion point of, like, if you're a pizza shop and you're looking to drive people to your store, to your actual storefront to buy pizza, like your Domino's on the corner, and somebody's typing in, I want to get pizza for lunch, and finding a pizza shop, making sure that as those people are mobile, on their mobile phones, they can get to your location very quickly, and at the top of the page without ever having to leave that initial search page. The second one is the call extensions, which kind of goes to the same point of a pizza shop of, if you want excuse me, if you want orders to come through over the phone, make sure you got that call extension and that you are allowing your customers to call you directly from their device. It's amazing how many people it's a click of a button, and we're going to go into some mobile-only campaigns that take that call extension to that next step. But call extensions are that next way of being able to still get out your message. If people need to go to your website or they want to go to your website, they can still do that, but still allowing that quicker conversion to happen up front by a call. The other example that I have here is a whole section that we'll talk about towards the end about apps and app extensions. Um, but that's just another way. If you got an app like, well, I'm going to use the pizza shop again here, Eric, is the Domino's Pizza. You have your app and somebody's typing in pizza. You want them to be able to download your app and get to your online ordering system quickly, and so we can get their apps to show up right away. The other thing that's newer, that's an interesting new take on kind of a call extension approach, is people are always obviously on their phones as we're talking about, but they're doing a lot of text messaging, and so we can actually now have message extensions that allow us to send or allow a user to send a message text to a designated phone number, and then you can reply back to them all through text message. So people who are not necessarily wanting to pick up the phone or fill out a form, they can actually just directly send you a text message, and you can actually then start that process of either giving them a call back, getting them a quote over text, getting them the information they need in a very timely manner and in a format that people are really now accustomed to doing and having on their phones all the time. So that really takes us, through what we can do on the forefront of our mobile extensions to kind of help combat some of the SEO potential issues, I guess we'll say, that kind of go before the organic content. But I think, Eric, now this kind of takes us right into working your way back up towards the top and with those app stuff, and that we got all of our extensions and ads, and how do we take that organic ranking and get ourselves into these other areas that are taking up all this space?
Right. That's a great question, and that's really what I want to answer because, a couple slides ago when you saw 4 different screens of mobile content, that looks pretty dire, pretty depressing if you're on the organic side. You think, oh, geez, there's so much distraction between me typing submit and then eventually them finding the organic listings. How do I get in there? We're very big on micro format coding, and if you've ever heard of schema.org, that's basically a way to give engines sort of an inside track on what it is your page is actually about. And it's basically a way of cataloging content in a machine readable sense. It's one step closer to the semantic web. For example, if to go to back to the Domino's Pizza example, if you're a pizza place, Google can probably infer from all the content on your site that you are a pizza place. But if there's actual coding that says you are a local business and you're subcategorized as a restaurant and you have a link to your menu, and in your description of it you have the word, not your meta description, but in your schema description you have something specifically about pizza and things like that, then Google's really going to know, hey, this is a pizza place, not just that we've algorithmically determined due to the prevalence of pizza-related terms that you're probably a pizza place. That's a long-winded way of saying that there are things you can do on your page that will help the odds that Google could give you a voice between the organic and the search box. So if you look here, the first screenshot I have is from that original Honda Civic query. What Car and Driver has done is coded their page such that you can see the sticker price, you can see the mileage, you can see various body styles. This is sort of that ethereal middle ground between paid and organic because it's not a paid ad. It's pulling from Google's what we call the knowledge box about that. And on a desktop screen, that would sit to the right of the organic listings, but in mobile it's stacked above it. So this info here comes from Car and Driver. Car and Driver is getting some traffic from this because you can see that they have the link there on right below the picture of the car where it says 4.5 out of 5. If you click over to that, you'll find information there. So this micro formatting that they've done has helped them. Another thing you can do is really get to know mobile searchers, and one of the ways I like to do this is to go into Google Search Console, formerly known as Google Webmaster Tools, and look in the search analytics report, you can look at all the queries that are not only sending traffic to your site, but close to sending traffic. You'll see a lot of things that you rank 30 or 35 or 40 for, and you're not actually getting any traffic, but it still shows that you rank for those, even though you rank fairly poorly. If you segment that list to show only queries from mobile devices, it's a great way to guide your content creation process. When I talked earlier about sometimes people get all the information they need from Google search without actually clicking over, the middle screen on this slide is what I was talking about. My query, as you can probably make out on the top, was battery life of MacBook Pro 13, like a 13-inch MacBook Pro. And so thanks to VentureBeat, I kind of get the idea from that without actually having to get over to VentureBeat. Now, trust me, VentureBeat's getting some traffic out of this. Make no mistake, they're getting it and they're benefiting from it. This actually comes up before. I don't think there are actually any paid ads on this particular query because it's so long tail. So this was actually the very top of the search results page for this query. Now look what's bolded in there. My query was battery life of MacBook Pro 13, but look what Google has bolded, 10 hours, around 8 hours. Now Google figured out that the answer to my question, which does not include the word hours, is going to have the word hour in it. Google is getting so amazingly smart at understanding what you are looking for that no one has to stuff their pages full of terms like battery life and life of battery length. It's figuring out what I want to know through that, and it's rewarding a site that answers the question without restating the question 1,000 times just to stuff the keywords in there. So to take a long story, make it longer, what I'm recommending here is write your content so that it answers questions, and to figure out what the kind of questions that people are asking, go into your keyword tools like your search analytics report. There's a site called UberSuggest. That's ubersuggest.io is the web address. But if you just search for UberSuggest, you'll find it. What that does is it extracts all those auto-suggest suggestions from Google. When you're at a Google box, you start typing, and you'll start typing battery life of, and it'll suggest things for you. Well, this tool goes in there and pulls out all those suggestions, and that gives you really good insight into the mind of the long tail searcher. Those are things that I recommend using to figure out what your content, what sort of questions and problems your content should answer. And then finally, the third recommendation here is, hey, if you already have an investment in creating an app, get as many people to download that as possible. And again, I know that's easier said than done. We could spend an hour talking about how people can get your app and download it. But if you start typing a query and people already have your app installed, your browser, in this case Safari for iOS, will remind you of that. So, get this traffic however you can. And the whole point of this is ways to sort of circumvent that long chasm between what where you typed it in and where the organic content starts. I'm going to talk a little bit about deeper app indexing and things like that. But first, there's this new term called Micromoments, and we were talking about it in Plan for this because I had no idea what it was, but Michael has some keen insight on that.
Yeah, and before we get to that, I want to kind of just go off what you were just talking about with all the just the different types of things we can do with schema coding and just this initial organic and search rankings of just going back to the extensions and then how we can actually excuse me again, get to mobile-only campaigns. So there's a couple ways to do this in the sense that we can do two ways. We can do call-only campaigns, which we kind of talked about a little bit. So making sure, and I put a nice example up here of how we can use our mobile devices as mobile devices with our ads. So we are showing our ad content and really the only call to action is them picking up the phone and calling us. So it's pretty straightforward as a mobile only campaign, but I wanted to make sure that we just covered the fact that outside of just an extension and giving people multiple options, because we know that the more options we give, sometimes the less likely they are to click through or convert, is giving them one clear option within those search results because there's so much going on between the schema markups and those boxes and the organic rankings that are below and all the other ads. It's giving them a clear call to action by using a call only campaign if your business can hold that. So if you're, I'm going to continue to use that pizza shop thing since we're so on it. And I'm going to probably have pizza for lunch now because I really want pizza now. Uh, but if you're that local pizza shop and you want people to call in their orders ahead of time and they're in your area, use call only ads to have people pick up the phone and make a mobile call in order. And then the other thing we can start to do with mobile only campaigns, and this is a little bit deeper, or this could be a whole separate thing like we were talking about earlier, is that using device bidding to negative desktop and tablet traffic. So now that Google has re-split out our device bidding options and given us more flexibility in how we can target our users based on what device they're on, where they are, and so forth. And that'll definitely go into that next conversation around the micro moments. Is I think now we start to really focus in on mobile-only campaigns again and use that as a major test and strategy point for our campaigns instead of trying to continue to combine everything in one where traffic is going to continue to decline over the years as we saw in the spend sheets, and that mobile is only going to continue to grow. So this gives us a perfect opportunity now to split out by device and have separate campaigns that are going to drive the right experience, the right messaging for the device that they're on, and the right offer for where they are as well and what device they're on. So if we are looking for somebody on the go who is in our geolocation and we want them to give us a call, set up a call only ad. If they're on desktop and they're at home and they're wanting to make an order, make sure the messaging fits that and we're not necessarily driving those click-to-call extensions or click-to-call ads, because they're more likely to use their computer or their tablet to get to that endpoint and that endpoint conversion. So it's starting to think about how we can continue to segment things out, just like you were talking about, Eric, with making sure we got all the right stuff for the organic rankings and being as close to the top as we can now with everything else filling in the space, but all of these other things we can start to do and test and really build out based on how Google is continuing to change those search results. And that
Excellent.
starts to take us into that next step is once they click through and they get to our site. I mean, I see this kind of stuff all the time now, and it's getting, kind of hurts us as professional marketers who really are good at our job. We understand that we want to be in front of people, but we don't want to bug them, and we don't want to be obtrusive like you're talking about. So just kind of walk through what that means from an organic standpoint. I know it can really hurt us from a PPC standpoint too, as they're really penalizing this in two ways. But how do we get around this from an SEO standpoint?
Right, and this is timely. This is another thing that Google announced last year, or maybe the year before, that they were starting to think about. They, as we said earlier, they're very focused on the user experience for people on mobile. They realize that when you go to a site and suddenly there's this full screen pop-up, and I know you've all experienced it, there's this pop-up where for some reason you can't find the little X that gets out of it. And believe me, that's not an accident. A lot of people are out there doing that because they want the only avenue for you to escape this pop-up is by filling in your email or your phone number or something like that. And this is really sort of a user advocacy move by Google, what we're calling the Google interstitial penalty. And interstitial is just sort of a fancy word for pop-up. It just kind of, you never know where it's going to occur. For the most part, Google doesn't really care about that while you're in the middle of a site experience. What they don't want is for this to happen between the click, and along the click journey from the Google search results page to the domain itself where you're clicking over to. They don't want an interstitial pop-up to occur right there if this pop-up is overly obtrusive. Now, the definition of this is kind of laid out, but they have three examples here of things that are what they would call obtrusive. And really it's where the bulk of the content of the page cannot be seen easily, or it's hard to get out of this. And the right two examples on the screen here, they're trying to get you to download something, or they're trying to get you to rate their, and the whole screen's filled up. Even on the left, you have half the screen covered. Now there are appropriate times for an interstitial and appropriate layouts for it. If it's, excuse me, if it's at the very top of the screen, maybe taking up the top fifth or fourth of the screen, to recommend an app download, that's okay. If it's on, a site, there are some sites, some liquor sites like, Captain Morgan or something, where you have to enter your age to quote unquote prove that you're old enough to be there. That's an appropriate use of a big interstitial like that. But for the most part, where it's just like, hey, we want your email address. If it's an email harvester or a mobile phone harvester, they don't want that. And what they have specifically said, though, is once you're on your site, as people click through, then they're not so concerned about it, because it's really not a search experience thing and it's not their purview. What they don't want is for that interstitial to be the very first thing that people see when they've come over from Google, because they are not thrilled with that experience, and they're going to, again, they're not exactly saying how they're going to make changes to the algorithm based on this, but you can be sure that you'll be ranking a little bit lower if you continue these as people arrive on your site. So more information on this, Google has a lot of docs and blog posts about it. Just search for Google interstitial penalty and you will find a great deal more about this. And Michael, I apologize because I set you up for the wrong slide last time.
Yeah, that's okay.
On me. So now,
all good. Now we can really, I think this really goes into that micro moments aspect of the conversation, because we are looking at our phones all the time. We get annoyed by things that happen like this. Even within apps, but the whole goal of what and why this is becoming a thing is because I think people realize that there's micro moments that are happening, and you got to capture somebody in those quick moments. Google's saying that we look at our phones over 150 times per day, which that is astonishing, and that the average session only lasts about a minute. So when it's not a limited amount of time on your phone, and it's very engaged time with long times where you're really doing something. It's quick moments, quick things that are happening that you have a thought and you pull out your phone. I think about the times that I pull out my phone, it's because I'm like, oh yeah, I thought about that. Let me look that up, or let me just see what's going on Facebook or on CNN or wherever I'm at. Let's see. It's quick moments. You take a quick peek, and then you're off, and you're doing whatever else you're actually supposed to really do. But I know we're already at 10:45, so I want to make sure we cover this because I think this is huge. But we want to really take everything else that we're going to talk about really goes back to this micro moment. So we may spend a little bit less on that, but just think about it in the sense of how do I use all of the things that we're talking about into today's micro moment, where we're trying to acquire customers in a very complex journey that plays out across a lot of different devices and channels. And there's three main opportunities, and there's a great blog post on PPC Hero from Jeff Baum that you can read up on micro moments that really kind of outline some opportunities and what it really means for the PPC space. But the three things that he covers and I want to cover is just we want to look at where our users are in their geolocation. Can we create a micro location where they're running an errand, maybe they're traveling, so they're in an airport, or what can we do to help anticipate what's coming up in their daily life and in their mobile journey, that we might be able to help fulfill something for them in these moments to let them know that, get their attention is the number one thing, and let them know that you're always there for them in whatever capacity that is, whether it's an article or an ad, and starting to make touch points that really go towards that marketing funnel of, starting out looking for a rental car because they're in the airport, and then you slowly start moving them down that path as they're making their research decisions, they're looking through stuff, and then that goes to the remarketing aspects. So they hit our initial touch point and start considering that buying cycle, and how do we strategize and provide value without being just always in their face through either interstitial ads or through something that's on the site that may or may not be relevant, but placing remarketing in the right um, context and in the right spot for those users to continue to make a decision. And that goes right down to that device bidding. And I'm hammering this over and over again today, just about how we need to look at our device targeting and setting up for where those people are in those micro moments. Are they at work? And so they're not only looking on their mobile phone, but they're actually on their desktop. So we can geo-target and look at how somebody can be cross-device during their day, and then when they are commuting, they're going from downtown home on public transit, so they're on their phone. So looking at and thinking about the process in which daily life occurs and how we can start plugging ourselves into those micro moments and really get people to recognize the brand and what you have to offer, that's going to give them really everything they need. And it goes back to just letting them know that it's kind of a weird feeling or weird saying of like, let them know you're there for them. But a lot of times it really comes down to making that connection with our users so that they look to us um, as kind of their first step the next time.
Excellent. Well, as usual, you've become an expert on things that I didn't know existed until a few days ago, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, I have a lot to move through here. Now, one of the goals of this was, as we put this together for our clients, how do they know if they're on the right track mobile-wise? And so we culled a lot of information based on Google's recommendations. And, basically you have a couple of different options when you're building a mobile site still. You have you can still do the MDOT. A lot of people are doing the separate mobile site. That's fine, but there are right and wrong ways to do it. And a lot of people are moving over to responsive. The really funny thing is I spoke at SMX 4 years ago, and at that time, again, that was like the third consecutive year of mobile that we've had, 2013 or whenever it was. At the time, I surveyed the top 50, the websites for the Fortune 50. And at that time, 4 years ago, half of them, fully half of the Fortune 50, still did not have a mobile presence, let alone, hitting all the mobile check marks. I did it again for this webinar. We still have 8 out of the Fortune 50 with no mobile presence whatsoever. We don't want anyone to do that. I mean, the sites that are doing it can get away with it because they're multi-billion-dollar companies. They probably don't need a mobile site, but still, there's really no excuse. So this screen is a representation of an audit that we do, and you don't feel like you need to snap this or do it because as we talk about the offers later, we will do this for you. And so this is the check mark, the checklist of things we look at for a separate mobile site. And Michael, if you go on to the next one, there's a separate set of things that we look at for a responsive site. Again, don't feel like you got to write these down. As we talk about moving on from this, you'll get a copy of this, first of all, and then second of all, our offer to you later is that we will do this audit for you to take all the guesswork out of it. So that's how we keep track of whether sites are on the right track mobile-wise. There's one additional thing that I want to talk about, so you can move on to the AMP slide, Michael. The question, what else can I do? Okay, there's a programming practice now that Google has. It's an open source project, but Google's behind it. It's called AMP. It stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages. It really puts design first, okay? It puts the user and their experience ahead of everything else, and it's very focused on the mobile experience. Now, you'll need to look this up separately. This you could take a 2 or 3 day long seminar on this. It's a lot. It's not a short undertaking. It's a big deal. It takes a lot of programming overhead. There's a lot of testing involved. But basically, what it is a framework for creating mobile pages that load lightning fast. And it achieves this by carving out some pretty rigid specifications about how to build mobile pages. A lot of assets are cached on Google servers and other servers. There's a lot of things that have to happen. If you've ever migrated or clicked over to a mobile page and you start reading, oh, but suddenly the content shoots down the page because a mobile ad loads above it, or because these pages are loading one element at a time and it's just really screwing up the layout. This avoids all that. And now they first pushed it out on news sites. If you go to Google News on a mobile device, most of the sites at the top will have this AMP designation. If you click over, man, it is like there's just no latency whatsoever. That's how this is built. The question for you is, hey, is this something for my site? Is it worthwhile? Google's saying, hey, we want to move this out of the news realm into regular sites. Explore it. All I'm saying now is explore it. I'm not saying yes, go hard on it, or I'm not saying stay away from it, because it's a complex decision, but it's one I think you should explore and look into. Like I said, it's not something you can do in a long afternoon. It's going to take a while, but the rewards appear to be great because Google's really starting to show AMP results above the fold in a lot of places, and the sites that are implementing this are getting a lot of clicks. So that's a long-term something for you to take with you and explore whether it's a smart option.
That's really great. Yeah, it's really interesting just how things are evolving, and it kind of goes to this next slide, mobile and apps. And I know AMP isn't necessarily app-based in but as we look at how people are utilizing the web, and this is a big telling thing, and this is even from a couple of years ago. People are when they're on their phones, they're 90% of the time they're in an app, meaning they're on Facebook. They're in another messaging or social app. They're looking up YouTube videos. They're in another entertainment type thing, or they're in a game, so they're in an in-app game where you can have in-app ad experiences. Whereas only 10% of the time that we spend on mobile is in a browser, and that's really Chrome, Safari, and um, that makes up the chunk of it because I mean it makes sense. We have basically Android phones and iOS phones, and so people can have Chrome on both phones. And Safari is just kind of that default that you'd use on an iOS, and so between those two, that's it. And that's only 10% of the total browser initiative. So it's really interesting to see where we're headed, and I think this is only going to continue as there's so many apps on the app stores. There's everything kind of has an app now, and so we want to look at things not only from a search perspective but from an app perspective. So I know we're getting close to time, so this is going to be more for your information to kind of look into and think about. We have another great blog post on our site written by J.D. Prater that talks about this very thing with the amount of time we're spending on apps, the amount of time people are searching for apps. We need to be utilizing, if we have apps, utilizing App Store ads. So Apple App Store search ads and Google Play Store ads. A couple of examples here. And basically with Apple, the ads are created automatically. It's just creating, just like we do with search, keyword targeted campaigns that are going to put your app above the organic listings, just like a search page, to be in front of people who are ready to install an app just like yours. So we should be taking full advantage of this move to apps through some of these other avenues that we may not have really thought about in a larger capacity. We think about apps from, like maybe an app extension within, Google search results on mobile, where we can add that kind of app aspect of, hey, we have an app, you can download it and go to the store page and get it. But this kind of takes it to that next level of reaching people who are interested in apps in the places that they are going to be downloading those apps. An interesting statistic that's even in the blog that I wanted to make sure um, I brought up is that the cost currently the cost per install is only about $1 with a 50% conversion and a 50-cent cost per tap, which is a huge decrease in what it costs for us to have a CPC on search results. So this is something to continue to think about as you move through 2017. If your business or your clients are either have an app or are looking to create one, and how you can really get users in those micro moments in those different places that they are uh, that are going to give them they're going to see you instead of your competitors. And so that also takes, I think I went, did I go backward? That takes us right to the mobile organic aspect of this too.
Right. The organic version of what Michael was just talking about with App Store ads is getting your organic content indexed. You can get your app content indexed. To do that, look up something called Google Firebase. Okay, that's sort of set of a tactics that helps your deep app content get indexed. That's another way to get your stuff above the typical organic listing when you search for stuff. Also, and the other way here is to get your app itself indexed from the App Store. So those are two different things that, again, would make up a great webinar on their own. Look into it. Getting your app indexed in the App Store, and then getting your app content indexed with Google Firebase.
Great. Yeah. There's so many ways that we can use apps, and as we just continue to hound in that apps are the future, and the data backs it up. Either whether it's through your app or through a social app, as we saw that a lot of people's time is spent on social. Um, think about how you can utilize that to your advantage and how you can hit people in the moments of where they are. And as social continues to grow, so does ad formats. Think about how you can start creating video content for Instagram in story ads. How can you utilize Facebook and Instagram in feed ads? So whether it's a video, it's a picture, it's a carousel that shows multiple feeds, is it a shopping ad, and promote it even on Pinterest. How can we be in front of users where they are? And there's even a couple of new ad types as we finish up here that if you haven't already started utilizing these in this last year in 2016 as they were rolled out, think about how you can use these ad types to really engage your user. Canvas ads for user engagement. Show them, get them to click through and give them kind of an on-site experience right within the app that they're on. So within Facebook, they can click in and they can actually interact and engage with your content by right through Facebook without ever leaving. And then as they're doing that, you get them interested, and then you get them to your site to make that direct conversion without having to go through multiple steps on the website. The other thing is utilizing all the different types of ad content of photos, video ads. I think as video continues to grow, I just briefly mentioned with in-story ads with Snapchat and with Instagram, find ways that we can really be in those quick micro moments with our customers. So, Eric, do you have anything else that you want to just quickly touch on before we kind of wrap this thing up?
No, let's go on to the offer.
Perfect. So I'm going to let you start out here.
Right. Well, the checklist that I showed earlier, one of the things we'd like to offer to the attendees of this is our ability to do that for you. So if you opt into this, we will just be able to go through your site and check off the things that are working right and notify you of the things that are not, regardless of whether you have a responsive site or a separate MDOT type site.
Great, and we do a similar thing here at Hannapin as well for our webinar attendees, our solutions blueprint. And so what is that? We do just similar to what you were talking about, we do a custom account analysis for brands spending over $15,000 in per month in ad spend. And so we have our experts look at your account, compare the structured results to industry standards, our internal expertise, and give you some suggestions on how you can improve what you're doing, and give these suggestions to in-house PPC teams, and so we can really double check your work with a fresh set of eyes, and on your account. And so if this is something, either of these are something you'd be interested in, just let us know and somebody will reach out to you.
Excellent. And thank you all for sticking around this long. We had a couple questions. One of the questions was for me on the organic side for lead to conversion. You talked about the minimums that Hannafin has.
Mm-hmm.
Our minimums are generally in the $2,500 a month range. That's where most of the campaigns typically start. There are some exceptions when it's a one-off project or audits or things like that, but that's generally where we start.
Great. Perfect. And I think with the time, and we'll let this poll go a little bit longer. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for attending today, taking the time to listen, and just think about mobile in 2017 and kind of where we start out the year and what resolutions we can come up with our updated strategies and mobile, and where things are really headed as we move into the next few years. So thank you everyone for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Have a great day.